The Iran war has been a whirlwind for the last couple of days, but the American officer stranded behind enemy lines after his F-15 crashed has been extracted. And for us, the details of the rescue operation are full of intrigue, involving subtle strategic subterfuge, a firefight between the US military and the IRGC, the loss of a couple more US aircraft, and the first American boots on the ground. So, today, we need to look at the situation from a whole bunch of angles. Obviously, the details we know so far about the rescue operation will be our first priority, both because a lot happened there, and it is fundamentally interesting. Then we will branch out to a bunch of other thoughts, including a reconsideration of the safety of US flights over Iran, some of the more esoteric strategic options that the United States and Iran have the next time that this happens, and the viability of missions involving boots on the ground. But let's begin with the rescue operation. The story here starts on April 3rd, when an F-15 crashed in Iran near the north of the Gulf, reportedly having been shot down by some kind of Iranian interceptor. More on that in a minute. The pilot, whose ejector seat is seen here, was immediately recovered. The reason for the fast turnaround is unclear, but a likely explanation is that he landed in a safe area and was found before Iranian forces could track him. The weapons system officer also ejected, but remained missing, creating the two-day drama. Let me now walk through what the early reports indicate happened, with a friendly reminder that fresher reporting might alter some of these details. Oh, and also a disclaimer that Iran says that none of this happened, and the whole rescue operation was a disaster. But Iran says a lot of things that independent media cannot verify. So, in contrast to the disinformation bots that have infected all of social media, we will do our best to ignore those claims here. Okay, immediately upon landing, the officer activated his Combat Survivor Evader Locator, or CSEL for short. It acts as a beacon for US search and rescue operations to find the downed personnel. Before that black box that you are seeing was developed, previous beacons had a problem of being a general broadcast signal, meaning that opposing forces could also use it to get to the location first, home field advantage and all that. The CSEL tries to limit the signal to only the aviator's friends by using encryption technology and limiting transmissions to quick bursts. The weapons system officer then took cover on the high ground of a 7,000-foot ridgeline and waited for rescue. Notably, these are the same mountains that got in the way of Iraq's attempted invasion of Iran more than 3 decades ago. Well, the CSEL worked as intended. The United States immediately knew the location of the missing weapons system officer. However, there is a major strategic problem here. Even if the beacon only tells you where the officer is hiding, your actions can also reveal his location. For example, if you fly a helicopter directly to him, but then realize that landing is not safe in that moment, then anyone watching that helicopter knows exactly where to go. Then you have a problem of having to fight through a whole bunch more personnel, assuming that the enemy does not capture the officer first. So what we seem to be seeing on Friday into Saturday is a combination of actual air cover for the downed officer and diversionary searches to throw Iran off the trail. This included the CIA launching an information campaign inside of Iran to confuse enemy forces about the situation. In particular, there was a ruse about the officer leaving on a ground convoy, trying to convince Iran to look for the wrong thing. Side note, that would be a very strange thing to attempt. More on that when we discuss boots on the ground. Anyway, the delay in the rescue persisted until enough Iranian forces had been pushed back or otherwise eliminated, with A-10 Warthogs again appearing to take the lead here. The IRGC is among the forces that the United States appears to have engaged. Then, sometime in the pre-dawn hours on Sunday, the Navy's SEAL Team 6 went for it. The details here are sketchier, but the commandos used a combination of helicopters and planes to reach the area, land, maintain fire to keep Iranian forces away, pick up the weapons system officer, and leave the scene. One of the more intriguing aspects of the mission is that a couple of C-130 planes could not take off upon their attempted departure from Iran. This implies that the United States had established a de facto airfield inside of Iran for the purposes of the operation. 3 more planes had to come in as backup, which necessitated blowing up the stranded C-130s to not simply give them to Iran. There were no US casualties in the operation. And that is pretty much that regarding the rescue itself. I will leave Trump's Truth Social post here announcing the operation for those of you who apparently have ample free time and yet surprisingly will not be thanked for their attention to this matter. Regardless, with the saga now concluded, you are about to see an endless stream of some very confident hot takes about what this says about the war. If you will now give me a minute, let me make everyone angry by pointing out that the truth does not lie on the extremes. When the F-15 crashed on Friday, I emphasized the importance of following process, not outcomes, meaning to focus less on the luck of any given outcome and more on the structural process that generates what we observe. That continues to apply here. Just because this search and rescue operation went according to plan does not mean that the next one will. Nonetheless, focusing on process still tells a cautiously optimistic story for the United States. As of mid-March, the US military had flown about 6,000 sorties over Iran. More recent figures are lacking, but a conservative estimate might put it at about 10,000 today. 3 enemy downings of aircraft over that period translates to a 0.03% failure rate. That is astonishingly good. The United States continues to dominate the skies, with the reminder that domination does not mean invincibility. For a point of comparison, and note that reliable data on this is hard to come by, Russia's failure rate during the first month of the invasion of Ukraine was something like 0.5% to 1.5%. So the United States is faring an order of magnitude better in Iran. That said, a 0.03% failure rate means that eventually another plane will be downed. Maybe next time it will not be in a remote region, and the IRGC will capture the pilot in short order. Thus, the White House still needs to be concerned about the political fallout from that, and consider when to stop the broader war effort in that light. Speaking of future behind enemy lines situations, I want to point out that there are a couple of interesting strategies that both sides can adopt here, if their operational security is good enough. The main problem with Iran capturing a prisoner of war is the propaganda value that it would create. And certainly, in the long run, that is the direction that the government would take. In the short run, however, you could keep the whole thing quiet. Let the United States believe that the missing aviator is still out there, in desperate need of rescue. That would draw in additional US aircraft, perhaps not operating at the same level of safety standards as they usually do. In turn, Iran could trigger a domino effect, where the first downed aircraft leads to a second downed aircraft, and so forth. There was some speculation that this was already happening before the officers' rescue early Sunday, but with hindsight, that was obviously misguided. It also presupposes that Iran has effective anti-aircraft capabilities, which a 0.03% success rate, from Iran's perspective, casts doubt upon. Meanwhile, there is another option going in the other direction. Suppose that the United States quietly recovered the officer. Given how leaky the White House is, that might be hard to see in practice. But let's work with the idea for a moment. Then this also flushes out Iranian forces into the open, as they try to be the first ones to find the now unfindable aviator. The CIA appeared to try something like this by conveying the false information to Iran, but one could imagine attempting a much larger version of it. Finally, let's talk about the fact that there were actual boots on the ground. This general point has received a ton of interesting media attention over the last couple of weeks, I think because of the media's illiteracy on the subject. But the successful extraction operation is going to open the doors to a new round of discussion here. Let's try to get in front of it. You can imagine an argument that goes something like this. The United States just broke the seal on boots on the ground. The operation went swimmingly, and so the United States will be tempted to do it again. perhaps taking over Karg Island and seizing the oil there. Or maybe the White House will get feistier and attempt to push on the mainland Iranian coast. 2 points, one general and one specific to Karg. As a general point, the reason that this operation was successful was because it was lightning fast. It is much easier to put boots on the ground when they are not there for long enough for Iran to know where they are and launch Shahed drones in their direction. Anyone telling you that this opens the door to a ground invasion on the outskirts of Tehran has no idea about the geography of the country, the logistics that would be involved, and the basic tactical situation that would create. The Pentagon seems to understand this, because it is a very basic point, which is why the number of ground forces deployed to the region is still very small. It is also the one military thing that Trump himself seems completely allergic to, so it would be a massive change in policy if anything like that happened. Regarding Karg specifically, there is no feasible way to take the oil. The oil reaches there via pipelines, which Iran would simply shut off. Never mind that there is no way to get a tanker there to load the oil. Never mind that US forces would just be sitting ducks for Shaheds. Never mind that none of that is necessary. A friendly reminder that US boots on Karg Island could simply disable the oil infrastructure, causing significant problems to the Iranian government. But there is no need for them to stay there. They can sabotage and leave. It therefore remains a threat to keep in mind, even as it would come with the significant drawback of inevitably causing yet another spike to oil prices. So, what are our takeaway lines for today? US Special Forces continue to be the best in the world. The air campaign will continue under the same level of caution, because Special Forces rescues cannot be treated like a crutch. Both sides could run some creative gambits the next time that an aviator ejects behind enemy lines. And this is not the proof that boots on the ground will be fine that I am sure some will claim that it is. Hey, funny thing. Leaders can claim a lot of things, but that does not make them true. And if you have ever thought to yourself, I want a 50-minute treatise on why we should not listen to what leaders say, well, Lines on Maps Extra yesterday had just the video for you. But what is more interesting about it is that I also covered the circumstances where leaders can credibly communicate information. Yeah, curveballs like that are fun. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.